Today, we're giving you a behind-the-scenes look at one of the most important and empowering services we offer at RealWealth, the strategy session. If you've ever thought about investing in real estate but didn't really know where to start, or you're trying to figure out which markets or property types make the most sense for you and your goals, this episode is for you. I'm Kathy Fettke. Welcome to the RealWealth Show.
You're listening to the RealWealth Show with Kathy Fettke, the real estate investor's resource.
Today, I'm joined by two of our expert investment counselors at RealWealth, Leah Collich and Stacey Stegenga. Welcome, you guys. Before we get started, if you are ready to invest in real estate, just go to realwealth.com/schedule and you can get a free consultation with one of these fabulous investment counselors. All right, well, let's get started with who you are, specifically pertaining to real estate. Leah, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I got my start investing in real estate back in 2010, maybe the worst time to be jumping into real estate, but we saw an opportunity. And my husband and I, it took us a few years to really realize, hey, this is a strategy we want to be doing more aggressively and at scale. But unfortunately, we moved around quite a bit with my husband's career. And so it necessitated this out-of-state investing strategy and needing to leverage other people's time and expertise in a market to continue to grow our portfolio. And so I actually became a RealWealth member back in 2016 to do just that, to try to grow my portfolio, and did so through leveraging a lot of the RealWealth network of relationships and providers. And in 2019, Kathy asked me to come and work for the company. So now I work at RealWealth, coaching people to do the same thing that I did and grow their portfolios passively.
And I literally couldn't have cloned myself better, except that you're taller and more beautiful and younger.
Oh, that's a high compliment.
But, we saw you, we invited you to an investor panel because we want, when we have events, we want our audience to hear from real people at RealWealth. And we were all of us at RealWealth were at the back of the room going, oh my goodness, I wonder if she has a job right now or if she'd be willing to come to RealWealth. And then it just worked out. We're so happy to have you. You've helped so many investors answering their very personal questions. Everybody's deal is different.
Right.
Yeah. And then Stacey, you are new to the team, but not new to real estate. We're so happy to have you. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I was previously a critical care nurse working in healthcare for over 13 years. And I started experiencing burnout long before COVID. But COVID was truly the straw that broke my camel's back. And so it was D-Day for me. And I was like, I have to find another way to make money. And I had already been learning about real estate and jumped in. But it's such a beautiful moment. I had a mentor guide me, and I was about to make a very bad decision in my investing career. And they pointed me in the direction that was aligned with my goals. And it is so serendipitous to me that is truly what I view my role as at RealWealth as an investment counselor, is being that guide and paying it forward and helping others avoid those critical mistakes that can deter us from our goals. So, yes, very excited to be here in this capacity.
Yeah, well, and you came to RealWealth after a long search that Leah conducted with hundreds of applicants, and you really rose to the top. So you've also been helping so many of our members make those tough decisions, and it's so hard to make a decision when you're not a full-time real estate investor. You just don't know what you don't know. So for listeners who maybe don't know what you're counseling people on and what RealWealth offers, Leah, could you just sum that up?
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of us, we're the only person in our friend group that is doing this. And our friends and family think we're maybe a little bit crazy. And so the story for so many of us is we start binging on podcasts and forums and blog posts to just try to learn and try to surround ourselves with people who get this. And so, the design of RealWealth was to create a real person that investors could connect with to kind of be that guiding light, or just that sounding board for, in a sea of different options and strategies and people that you can be working with when you want someone to kind of help you hone it in, narrow the focus. The Real Wealth investment counselors, obviously we specialize from the vantage point of Real Wealth and the teams that we have, vetted and that we know and that we have established track records in, but we're able to kind of pull the right information out of an investor that makes their investing strategy unique to them, their risk tolerances, their preferences, their capital limitations. And we, as experienced investors who've done this before, can kind of help guide them to the strategy that makes the most sense for them. And if it is that passive investing strategy, we're able to make some introductions to these vetted teams, to resource partners, to really speed up the process, streamline their investing journey, and kind of be that guide for them throughout the escrow process, and then more importantly throughout the process of ownership while they're holding these assets.
And I think you said a key point there is that what we specialize is passive investing for people who are busy with their own jobs. They have money for a down payment, but not enough if they live in the San Francisco Bay Area. They maybe can't even buy their primary residence, but that money can go a lot further in other markets and the cash flow would be a lot higher. So Stacey, you're new to Real Wealth, but you've known about us for a long time. We've seen you at events, and actually you came so recommended by some of our employees who already knew you and love you. You have kind of seen both active investment and passive. And now that you are more experienced, which one do you like better?
Yeah, always the passive, right? Because that's the true beauty of investing, is having that income without the extra time demand on you or even stress. Active investing can be extremely stressful. And I feel like it's a concept that you can't fully appreciate until you've done. So that is one of the ways that we help guide people is, new construction is going to be far more passive than an older asset. It's just truly the nature of the business. Older assets break more. So again, just helping align those opportunities based on the time demand and what the investor is trying to achieve.
And I want to dive into the mindset. I want to dive into the mindset shift that's required, because I'm guessing that some of the people in your real estate groups and that you've hung out with would look at easy investing as cheating. Like, what? You're going to buy a new home and you're not even going to fix it? That's not investing. What is that? So, I mean, did you experience that or?
Yeah, there's always going to be the naysayers that think their strategy or flipping or whatever they're doing is the best way to do it. But I say it's best to find what aligns with your lifestyle. And if you're a busy medical professional and you don't have time to deal with that kind of demand, it really just increases your risk, right? Because you forget things or you miss things that can just be so costly. So taking the easy route, if you will, truly is the safest and best for you. And so that's the kind of alignment we help investors find on a strategy session.
Yeah, it really comes down to if you have a job, you don't need another job. That's
Yes.
technically a full-time job.
Yes,
I mean, Leah,
absolutely.
your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm a big proponent because I dabble a little bit. I love the passive investing. I feel like I always want to have these investments growing on the back burner for me long term, right? Because I'm really thinking I'm doing this for 10 or 15 years down the road. I'm not doing it for tomorrow. But of course, there's so many great strategies out there. So, Stacey and I will both admit, like, there's a time to do a flip. There's a time to get your hands dirty and have a hands-on project. Most investors eventually just can't help themselves from getting into some of that.
So
but I love having that easy button approach to investing where, as I'm in my prime earning years, able to build this little pile of cash that then I can hit an easy button and deploy it in a passive manner without requiring more brain space, without requiring more of my time, and just get another one of those properties going on the back burner for me on that 10 or 15 year time horizon.
Okay, so I imagine, people who haven't called you, because why wouldn't they, to help with the strategy? What do you think the fear might be? I mean, I'm guessing it might be that you're going to be selling them hard on something.
Probably. That is the world we live in, unfortunately.
But what actually happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is what sets us apart is that we know this strategy isn't for everyone. And it's best for you and it's best for us. It's best for everyone if you are leaning into the strategy that's right for you. And so really a lot of the first 10 or 15 minutes of our calls with our clients is discovery. Like we're asking questions to try to learn more about you and your vantage point and your drivers and your pain points and your ambitions and any criteria that allows us to say, oh, okay, I think what you're wanting is something like this, and we offer this. Or in some cases, it's, hey, we don't offer that. Like, I want to save you time. You should go do that over there, with some other resources. But we really want this to be investor led, and there is no high pressure sales tactics. We pride ourselves on that. We do have awesome teams that we can connect you with, and again, kind of streamline that process. But we want you to be autonomous in your decision making, and we can come and kind of play devil's advocate if that's what you need, or cheerleader. Sometimes you need a little bit of both, but we're kind of there to, without pressure, keep you moving along towards your goals and help you remember the things that you told us in the very first call that were important to you.
So, Stacey, when you were a full-time nurse, and I imagine very, very busy and no time to really think about investing, what might have gone differently for you had you done a strategy session with Leah, for example?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I feel we add is honing in investor focus. We all want to know everything about everything, and it's just not realistic, and it holds us back. It stops you from preventing that success, that first acquisition, the next one, so on and so forth. So I think the biggest thing is that I would have been able to take action faster, and I would be further along on my investment journey if I had this opportunity back then.
But you did at least have someone helping you make a good decision and stay out of a bad decision. Is that right?
Well, and to Leah's point earlier, we tend to learn things about real estate based on who's around us and not necessarily what's best for us. And the decision I was making initially when I was first starting investing was I live in Denver, and house hacking is huge here. It's where it was first claim to fame. It was dubbed here. And it's a great strategy for a very expensive city. However, it was not aligned with what I was trying to do. And that's what my mentor helped me realize. I needed passive income, and I could do that much easier out of state with long-term buy and hold investments than I ever could with a single house hack here. And it stopped me from making a catastrophic mistake, because it would have maxed out my DTI. Buying a $700,000 house here in Denver would have strapped me to a single investment for the foreseeable future. And instead, I was able to buy my 4 duplexes out of state and, like I said, generate that passive income. So now I try to align opportunities with our busy professional investors when they book a strategy session to help them achieve their goal as fast as possible with the insight I have now.
And if you would, just explain what DTI is.
Yeah. So your debt to income, just how much a bank is willing to lend to you. So as a single nurse, $700,000 is a hefty risk for a bank to give me all in one lump sum. So it's the analysis of your income to debt ratio.
And I wanted to bring that up because it is so important. It's this kind of strategy that if you're new to real estate, you might not even think about. But understanding DTI is what helped my daughter buy a house at 22, because she came to me and said, I want to buy a car, Mom, I'm going to buy a car. And I was like, ooh, your DTI, that's going to blow it. You're not going to be able to buy a real investment. And a car is not an investment. It is the opposite, right? It loses value the minute you drive it out the lot. So she listened. She didn't mess up her DTI. She qualified for her first home, and that home made her $150,000 in just a few years. The car wouldn't have done that. Yeah. So really understanding these kind of nuances is so important. Leah, is it kind of fun, almost like playing a puzzle in a way?
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe equally maddening because there is no one size fits all approach. And sometimes people hop on a call and they're expecting that there's a right answer that we're working towards. And unfortunately, it's a little bit more ambiguous than that. And that things change too. That's the other aspect of real estate investing. It's a bit of a moving target. It's investing after all. But I think it is really fun to, see the light bulb moment come on for people. I can recall a specific client that I actually met met at a San Antonio event. Jenica, she lives in San Antonio, and the price point for rental property there for single families that she was looking at was it was cost prohibitive for her, and that goal felt very far away from her. And we kind of hit it off at the live event, and so I was like, hey, let's hop on a call next week when we're back in the office, and let's just kind of dive in and talk about your situation. And through our conversation, we talked about, available capital and, what her true goal was. She's about to be an empty nester with both her kids, getting fully launched into the world. And she's looking for like, what's next for me to start focusing on and building, but with more limited capital. And so through our conversation, I was able to kind of guide her towards some of these markets that, they don't have the same growth trajectory that San Antonio might long term, but they have much lower hanging fruit for her, much more attainable price points. And, fast forward, long story short, I mean, she ended up getting into her first investment property at the very end of 2024 in Birmingham, Alabama, with our team there. And we had a call just a couple weeks ago, and she was just kind of lamenting, I didn't realize that this was an option for me. I didn't realize that I could do something like this as soon as I did, but it just took someone helping her kind of reframe what she was working with, what her objectives were, and then introducing her to the people who could help her take action on that.
Stacey, you're nodding your head. You've had a similar experience?
Yeah, just an appreciation for that. Just getting people in touch with the right resources so that they're able to come over, so they're able to overcome those hurdles and actually make progress towards their goals.
Yeah, it's so scary. I mean, the first time you invest, it's so scary. Even if you already invest in state or, you own your own house, it's new and different and terrifying. So to be able to talk to someone like, Leah specifically and Joe, who have been with the company for a long time and have spoken to hundreds, if not thousands of investors, have invested in these particular markets. I mean, Leah, you lived in San Antonio, so you're not making stuff up. You know very well the growth trajectory there. You've made money in that market. You continue to make money in that market. So, it's not a guessing game. Like, and I'm not saying it is for you, Stacey, either. You've been doing this a long time too. And specifically in Florida, where we're very active and, aren't new to the concept. You could share so much.
One of the benefits is there's collective brain power at RealWealth too, so not only are all of us investment counselors and all of us investors on staff here at RealWealth talking to each other, we're talking to our teams, who are very savvy investors in their markets, and we're talking to many dozens of investors every month about what they're doing in real time. And so, we're your conduit to that collective brain power that we all get to tap in and benefit from, myself included in that. And so, I've said this before, but, I had a mentor when I was growing up who said there's two schools that everybody has to choose which one you want to go to. Do you want to go to the school of hard knocks, or do you want to go to the school of lessons learned? The tuition is much cheaper at the school of lessons learned. And I feel to some extent, RealWealth offers kind of that lessons learned approach where, it's not meaning that there won't be some challenges, but hey, we're going to make sure that you're prepared for them, you're equipped for them, like you've got the reserves that you need for them, you have the right people on your team to help you navigate those. And it's just such a smoother ride when you can tap into that.
And I just wanted to add that if you really consider, you add up all of the experience of the ICs, I think we have, 40 to 50 years of total investing experience. And even when I have a strategy session, if I have an investor that I don't know the answer to their problem, I'm asking the other ICs, and you're getting the experience of over 50 years of investing. So it's an amazing resource that I hope no one hesitates to schedule and lean on us and ask those important questions.
It's so important. I mean, we get questions all the time when I'm on the podcast, and people are like, "Hey, I found this property in Kansas City. What do you think? Should I buy it?" It's like, well, I need a little more information. So, listeners out there, please don't pull the trigger on a property until you just do a 5-minute call. Just ask a couple of questions, or let our investment counselors ask you, so that you might not even know which questions to ask, and before you close, because once you close, that's your baby. You own that property, right? You can't go back. And if there's a whole bunch of problems with that property, they're your problems.
Yes.
Yeah. And we've all been there, right? I mean,
Yes.
what are some questions that maybe investors hadn't thought of before, but they spoke with you?
So, one of the biggest and hardest lessons I had to learn is without communities like this and without these resources and the due diligence that we're doing on these teams, if you buy just on the public market in the MLS, you're truly on your own. So if there's any type of issue, your only action for recourse is truly a legal matter. And so I think that there's an additional benefit to these communities because we do have accountability and we do have ways to help our investors get better outcomes that you're not going to get in that public market type situation. So again, asking those questions because you might not even know, or sharing those experiences, you might not even know the types of resources that we can help you find to alleviate any pain points and problems.
I can think of some clients who've, we've saved them time in that they're coming in, scheduling a call, thinking that they need to do a 1031 exchange. And through discovery, through questions, we realize actually, like, you don't need to do a 1031 exchange. Your tax basis is relatively low here. You need to talk to your CPA about losses carrying forward and how you might be able to avoid having to, stick to those strict timelines. And sure enough, they go away, come back, and like, you're right, I didn't need to do a 1031 exchange. And it's like, okay, now we have a whole nother set of options open to us as far as identifying inventory goes for reinvesting their capital. I also had an older gentleman. I was sharing this with Stacey earlier this week. Much older gentleman called me, still very active in his investing game, but experiencing some volatility in his cash flow, owns the properties outright, and was deliberating about, how can I create more stability in my cash flow? Should I refinance one of these and go buy more? And, I was able to kind of tell him, look, at your age and at this point, I don't think you're going to reduce your volatility by owning more doors at this point. Like you need fewer doors, you need better doors. Have you considered a strategy like selling them owner financed so that you can continue to have that cash flow, but get rid of all the volatility of the maintenance costs and, the taxes that he was facing, hand that off to the buyer and just collect the mortgage payments from the new owner.
Well, I'm sure a big question is how much does it cost, to have these conversations? And the answer is it's free. We offer this for free. And then so that would lead to the question of, well, what's the catch? Why would we do that?
Yeah, we have a profit motive. It's no secret. We monetize our business through broker to broker referral fees. So, this list of vetted property teams that we've curated, they're all brokers. They're selling, these properties, and we're a licensed brokerage in the state of California, so they can pay us a referral fee from the proceeds of the sale when our investors buy. So we're able to offer all of this counseling and all the education at no cost to you. Obviously, we're incentivized for you to buy through our teams, therefore further incentivizing us to make sure we have good teams that you want to buy from. And so it's that synergy that I think kind of keeps the real wealth energy really moving in the right direction, being mutually beneficial for all parties involved. But that being said, our counsel and ongoing coaching of you is for the investors who are buying their properties through our Real Wealth teams. We have a little more influence there. Obviously, we know about those markets. We know about those teams. So that ongoing counsel on your investments is reserved for investments that you purchase through Real Wealth teams.
And I want to be really clear that there are other companies that provide this service, and some of them really mark the properties up a lot. So that they get a fairly large referral fee, and we do not do that. So people think, well, gosh, if I just go around Real Wealth, I don't have to pay that extra fee, and it's like there isn't an extra fee. It's a broker fee. You're going to pay that. That's just a listing fee. There's not very many properties that got sold without a broker, right? There's somebody who's going to make a broker fee. We get a part of that. So, trying to go around Real Wealth and get, what deal who are they working with so we can go around them and go to the builder? There's just no benefit. If anything, you're out on your own. Like Stacey said, you don't have us to help you.
Yes.
Yeah. So who would be the ideal person for the kind of properties that we offer?
For me, it was the version of me in 2020. So I was working a ton of overtime in the hospital, and then picking up all these extra call shifts. And it was needed because that's how I was saving for my down payment. But what I didn't have was the time or attention to focus on all these extra details and identifying the market and building the team. And the benefit is RealWealth has done that for you. So my favorite strategy session client would be any busy professional that can't do this on their own. Let me help you hone in that focus of things that you need to understand. Everything else can go to the wayside. We'll align markets and opportunities according to your goals. And then I love to see the success that comes after. It's very, very fulfilling.
And then, I love that. And how much money does somebody need?
I would say 50K, but that's just because that's enough to pad your reserves. You are prepared for anything. You could technically start investing with as little as 25 grand, but my reserve saved me early on. And so it's my tried and true method to bail you out of any situation. Real estate is still investing and it does come with risks. So I would recommend closer to that 50 grand.
Oh, nothing beats, the piece of having reserves for sure.
Yes.
And if you don't have 50 grand, I mean, there's still a lot that you can be doing to prepare, right? Mm-hmm. We do, live webinars every week where we're talking to the different markets and, reviewing inventory together. And so for someone who aspires to get into real estate investing eventually, but you recognize, hey, I just don't have sufficient capital to do that at this time, this is a place where you can be a engaged fly on the wall and, see deals and hear experts speak to them and see them analyzed and start to really hone in on what it is that you're looking for so that when you do have the capital and okay, I am moving from a little bit interested to I have actionable capital and this is something that I can do, then we can hop on a call and start making those introductions and really start giving you some of those tactical steps towards getting into your first deal.
Okay, so you need a $25,000 to $50,000 down payment and good credit to be able to get the loan, right?
Yeah, it does help you. Obviously terms get better the better that your credit score is, but there are financing options even for lower credit scores. But yes, always recommend talking to a lender to get pre-approved so we know.
And you can improve your credit. There are companies, oftentimes lenders will show you methods for improving your credit. One is to make sure you're paying down your credit cards, as soon as you can. Big balances on credit cards. Banks don't love that.
And Stacey mentioned a really important one is the DTI factor, right? That's another thing that a lot of investors or a lot of aspiring investors aren't thinking about is how much debt they have. And so, again, a discovery call with a lender can help you reveal, oh, my DTI is actually teetering on the edge of not being able to borrow anymore. And so I need to focus on paying down student loans or I need to pay off the car or, whatever it might be to create a little more space. Sell the car, rent out the house. I mean, whatever it is to create that space in your debt to income ratio so that you can continue to buy. But again, connecting with a lender is a great first step there to know that you have some borrowing potential.
And you need to have a job with at least 2 years job history. And if you're thinking about leaving the job and being a consultant, there's issues there because you went from 1090 or from W-2 to 1099. And so there's lots of things that, like Leah said, that will help you prepare to make sure that you're not making moves that will hurt you in the end. Like, don't quit your job because you need that job to get the loan and to max out your loans. Okay, you guys, we're out of time. I can't wait to have you back. You're just so amazing and helpful, and I love having you here.
Thanks. We'll do it again.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me here on the RealWealth Show. If you would like to schedule a session with one of these wonderful investment counselors, just go to realwealth.com/schedule.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, go to realwealthshow.com.